Good day. Today we're going to be looking at the Arbor Press project and a couple of components associated with that, and that includes the spur gear, the shaft, and the handle hub, and how all three of those go together. And if you're using the drawings, how the drawings are slightly off in their dimensions based on tolerancing. However, we need to make sure that they're accurate for the Fusion 360, so that way we're able to assemble them and allow them to operate properly in an animation. So I uploaded a couple of the files that are provided, which is the spur gear and the rack. And so I'm going to go ahead and open up the spur gear here in Fusion. So opening it up, it'll tell me when the status has been converted, and because it's originally in an inventor file, so it has to be converted into Fusion 360. So it'll take a couple of minutes. So now that I converted it, you'll notice that I've got two spur gears, one IPT, which is an inventor file, and now I've got the spur gear that I can insert into my current drawing. So that's what I'm going to go ahead and do, is insert the spur gear. It wants me to save this design. And we'll insert it into our current design. Okay, so here we have the spur gear inserted into our current design. Now the spur gear, since it is converted from Inventor, we're able to do some editing. Now it doesn't have all the same capabilities and features, but we could edit the body and do some basic edits. Theoretically, when we look at this, the issue is not the spur gear itself, but it's the keyway that's cut. The keyway in the spur gear is cut too wide. So if we were to inspect this and say I want the distance from one side to the other, it tells me that it's 0.064. Now the 0.064 is great, as long as all the other parts are designed as 0.064 to fit this particular design in what we create. So what I like to do is use the spur gear as the basis to create the shaft, and I'll show you how to do that. So we're going to go ahead and create a new component, and the new component is going to be shaft, and that way we're going to create the shaft from the spur gear. And so the shaft is going to get created. We'll create the sketch on the face of the spur gear. So we now have the sketch on the face of the spur gear. And let me close my data panel. Okay, so at this point we're going to project the shape of the keyway and the hole. To do that, we're going to choose the Create, Project Include, and the Project. And what we're going to do is project the arc and all three lines. And what that does is that projects it to the current sketch. Now that it's on the current sketch, we can begin the process to create the shaft. So we're going to draw a circle based on the center of the current projection, and draw the circle the same size as the projected circle, or the projected arc. Now that works out really well. Let's look at the front view. So now we've projected this blue circle. The purple is what has been projected. Now I've got to make the keyway for the shaft. To draw the keyway in, we're going to draw a line, but what we're going to do is we're going to actually draw the line and project this straight down. So we're going to start at the upper point, draw a line down, straight across, and we can project by highlighting. All we have to do is highlight the end point and bring it down and draw it back all the way out. And so the idea is that we can create an entity all the way around this object. So now we've got an entity in the object. We'll then use the trim command and trim the upper part of the shaft. So now I've got the shaft generated, except I don't have the right dimensioning yet. So I need to dimension the distance of the shaft. And the depth distance from the bottom of the keyway to the center is 0.093. So that's the depth of that keyway, is based on that location point. Now the width is perfect. It's exactly what we need because it's projected from the spur gear. So I'll go back to the home view, and now we can extrude by accepting the finished sketch. We can extrude the shaft, and the shaft gets extruded 2.7 inches. So we'll come over here, 2.70 for the extrude, and choose OK. And it's now created the new shaft. From this point, the shaft gets a chamfer on the end, and since we don't see the chamfer command, we go under Modify and we'll see the chamfer command. And the chamfer is a 0.020 chamfer on this edge. So we'll select this arc. The chamfer distance is distance and angle. It's a 45-degree angle. The distance is 0.02. And we'll choose OK. And you can see that and the reason why the chamfer is there is because it makes it easier to insert the shaft into the spur gear and the handle hub. And any collets and things like that you may have in the future. Alright, so the next thing is the handle hub. And the handle hub is a little bit different, and so we're going to go ahead and create a new design, and actually we can create a new component right here. So let's go ahead and create a new component. And the new component is going to be an external component, and the name is going to be handle hub. And so the handle hub is not going to be under the spur gear. It's actually going to be an external component based on the Arbor Press itself. And we'll choose OK. And associativity is now set. And what we're going to need to do is create a handle hub. And so we'll create a sketch, and we'll choose that view, or the right side view, for our sketch outline. And the handle hub is a little bit different. This particular handle hub, the creation is the hole. The placement of the holes for the handles is the key aspect. And so the shape of the handle hub is actually a revolve. And so what we'll do is we'll create a center line to revolve around and then create the handle hub. So we'll just draw a line along the center, change that over to a center line, and then create the handle hub. So the way the handle hub works is that it comes down, goes diagonal, has a flat surface, comes back, and it's closed. Okay, so that's the general shape of the handle hub. Now, let's go ahead and throw in some dimensions. So the dimension, one of the key dimensions is the angle. And so that angle is 70 degrees. Now, the other key dimension is this line here, which is 0.125. And the overall height is a 1/2 inch. So there's a reason why we did the 0.125 before the 1/2 inch, because we want to make sure that that 0.125 is taken into consideration. Now, the distance from the center line to the outer edge is half of the overall radius distance. So, from this line to the center line has a diameter of 1.25. And so now notice that the diameter distance of 1.25 is shown. And the reason why this works is because we picked the center line to dimension from. That'll give you a circular diameter dimension as opposed to a linear dimension that you could again calculate half of 0.125, and then that would be the distance. So now that we've got the general shape of the outline of the handle hub, we'll go ahead and choose Finish Sketch, and we'll revolve this object. And it knows how to revolve the object, and we'll choose OK. And we'll look at the home view, and we can see that the handle hub is based in that location. Now the interesting thing is that if we look at the front view, and we can change the view from a solid to a wireframe, we would see that this shaft is directly in the center because we use the center line of the shaft as the point of revolution. So what makes this nice is that we can choose the sketch, pick the sketch on the face of the handle hub, go to Create, Project, and project the arc, the horizontal line, and the 2 vertical lines. And you can see that it's now projected on the face of, it is slightly off. It is projected on the face of the handle hub. So since it is off, we're going to have to move it. Not a big deal. We'll just adjust it and work from there. So we'll use the Move command, and we'll select the objects to move. Let's go ahead and window. And the move type is going to be we can do a free move. And we can do point to point. So we can go from this point to the center point and choose. Huh, interesting. It's not allowing us to do, it's not. It didn't select the projection. Alright, so it's not going to allow us to move a projection, so we'll have to draw it. So if we'll draw this, and then we draw the lines in, we'll see if it will project for us, or move the object. Alright, so we've got the object now. Let's do the Move command again. Let's select the objects. Alright, that sounds good. 10 objects selected. Wow, that's a lot of objects. Let's try this again. So sometimes you have to look at it and say, that didn't seem right. Okay, so we're going to move it. We're going to move it point to point. So this is the first point. And we're going to move it to the center of our object and choose OK. And it didn't. Move it to the center. So we'll have to investigate why it didn't move to the center. So I discovered what the issue is. The issue is that we projected the chamfered edge and not the original size. That was part of the issue here, is that we did not project the right object. Plus I think that the center line may have been off a bit on this, the center position. But nonetheless, let's go ahead and regroup here real quick and we'll project this and recreate it. So we're going to go ahead and delete everything. And let's say, for example, we might, we're going to have to project this outer edge instead. That's what was causing the problem. So let's go ahead and we're still in the sketch. If not, let's go ahead and make sure that we're in the sketch. And we'll rename this sketch. Shaft and key. And we'll do a projection. And I want to project that outer edge. So let's take a look and see what that looks like in the front view now. And again, it seems like it is not centered. So I'm going to go back and redraw or reposition the center line of that first sketch, which is the key. So we'll finish the sketch here. And we're going to go back and edit the sketch. And that sketch is the key to our success on this. Because we did not align that sketch perfectly with the center. So let's delete the center line, draw in the center line from the center point all the way out, change this to a center line, so center line is still there, shape is still here. It looks like everything is a go. So the question then is, let's look at the front view. Okay. It is not centered. That would be the reason why. Okay. So that explains it, because here is the center point that I need to work with. And that is not the same center point as 0, 0. So that explains it. Alright, so how do we fix that? Well, we're going to have to finish all the sketches first. I'm going to go to the home view. I'm going to go ahead under construct, and I should be able to create an axis through cylinder. Okay, so now I've got an axis, And that axis is what's going to create this handle hub. So now I'm going to go back to sketch number 1 and edit sketch number 1. And look for the axes, but the axis is not being displayed. Let's see if I can turn the axis on. There's the shaft, there's the bodies, there's the origin, spur gear. Assembly contexts. All right. So that's the issue. That's ultimately the issue here. So what we're going to do is we're going to back this up and start this over again. And finish our sketch. We're going to delete the sketches. And once I get it aligned, I'll be back and we'll finish it. Okay, figured out how to resolve this. So I undid the handle hub. We're going to restart the whole process. I put an axis through the shaft, and so that I did a construct axis through cylinder. From there, I'm going to go ahead and create a plane at an angle. And I'm going to select the axes, and we're going to create a vertical plane, so we're going to type in 90 degrees to set the plane vertical, and we'll choose OK. Now that plane is directly down the center, as you can see, of the shaft, which is exactly where we needed it to be. The previous one was using the center of 0, 0, 0, which was not the center of the shaft or the spur gear. That was based on where I brought the spur gear in, and I didn't bring it in exactly at 0, 0, 0. So be careful of that process. This is foolproof though. If you create the axes, create the plane, we can then put a sketch on this plane, look at it in the right side view, draw our construction line, or use the axes, either way, but I could draw the line, and create our shape. Okay, and if we remember the quick dimensioning that we did before, this was a 70 degree angle. This distance was 0.125, and the overall height was a 1/2 inch. Okay, so, and then the distance from the outer line to the center was 1/2 of 0.125, so 1.25 divided by 2. Okay, so that positioned it. Now I've got to take this to there and make that 0. That won't allow me to do that. Alright. Why not? Not sure. But all I did was left mouse click and drag that line because that line's still flexible. And I'm going to go ahead and dimension it this way, from here to here. Oh. So I can do the same dimension. See, this dimension, the position, this dimension, the size of the object. So size and position both are key components. Let's go ahead and finish that sketch. Go to the isometric view, do a revolve. It says that it found the profile, wants to know the axis of revolution, and there we have the axis of revolution. Now we should be able to project the spur gear on the handle hub. So we'll create a sketch on the face, go to modify, create project, and project the original 3 entities. Out on the make sure I use the project command. So I could project that, and then if I wanted to, I can rotate this and project the bottom. And if I look at the face and zoom in, I should be able to see. Let's finish the sketch, or finish the projection. You can see that I projected one of the lines, which is fine. I can use that or delete it, and I can go back to the sketch. And I can draw the lines in to finish. Delete that line. So now I've got the cutout that I need for the keyway. And that's the shaft. Let me undo that, because I'm going to need this height to finish the keyway opening to project across. And so, in essence, the keyway is going to look like this. And now I can finish the sketch, extrude, but we're going to go ahead and cut that object out. And when we do this cut, what I'm going to do is go to the next surface. So instead of a distance, we're going to go to an object, or to that object, or I could do a distance, or all to object. And so I'll just pick that back surface on the object and choose OK, and it will cut just that section out. And when we look at it now, there's the shaft opening with the keyway key cut. So that will get you through this process of creating the handle hub in conjunction with the shaft, in conjunction with the spur gear. So all 3 components can be created in one sub-assembly and then assembled. You'll need a second hub and a few other things, but the idea is that you can create this hub. The next video will be on how to create the holes in the hub. So we'll cover that in our next video. Have a great day. We'll talk to you soon.